the news. Now we're going to get on to what we've been up to. You've probably guessed what we've been up to based on the intros and everything so far. So, Barbenheimer, we've all seen it. All seen both.
Yep.
Did we all do the double bill?
Yeah, I couldn't, unfortunately. I didn't have to.
Oh,
I had to do the Oppenheimer and then Barbie a few days later, just because of.
that's the way. I'd say I did the double bill. That's the way I did it as well, but only because the Cineworld gods had it that way. If it was up to me, I'd have done Boom Brunch Barbie. Didn't have that choice.
We did.
I was sent to bed with the I got sent to bed with the existential crisis.
Well, okay. Should we start with Oppenheimer?
Start with Oppenheimer. You go. You start, Gadget.
Okay. So, Oppenheimer. When Pip and I went, that's the one we saw first. We did Boom Brunch Barbie. Oppenheimer is it's been lauded as one of Chris Nolan's greatest films. It is a 3 hour and 7 minute biography of what happened to J. Robert Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project, with the creation of the nuclear bomb starting in 1942 or 43, something like that. And it tells his story from being a student in Cambridge all the way up to the bomb being dropped, and then after the Second World War, the concerted effort by members of the US Senate to discredit him over a tiny perceived slight.
Mm.
And it stars everybody. I'm not kidding. Everybody. On the IMDb page now, we have Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Alden Ehrenreich, Scott Grimes, Jason Clarke, Kirk Kohler, Tony Goldwyn, John Gowans, James Dacey, Ken Branagh turns up for a couple of scene-chewing areas. You get cameos by David Dalmatian and Jack Quaid's in there.
Yeah.
Florence Pugh doesn't even make the top bit of it, and she's critical to the story.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane how many people are in this. The film is told in 3 different timelines. So there's the timeline of Robert Downey Jr. plays Admiral Lewis Strauss, who's being interviewed for a cabinet position in, I can't remember which president's cabinet, but in
Truman.
No, it wasn't Truman. It was much later.
It's after, isn't it? Yeah, it's after, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry. I can't remember. It might be Nixon's. I think, I don't know. Anyway,
I think it was the one before Kennedy, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, maybe. Anyway, yeah. So he's being interviewed by the Senate panel, and he's got to the point where he's worried that they're going to ask what happened with Robert Oppenheimer, and so then his story comes out. All of that is shot in black and white because it's Strauss's memory of what happened. We then get directly from Oppenheimer's perspective, and then we also get the people around Oppenheimer in the kind of interview sessions ahead of that. Interview sessions about him being discredited. They haven't removed his security clearance.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a complicated film. It's incredible how well Nolan has managed to weave these 3 threads through, because they cover about 30 years in total.
Mm.
Yeah, and you've got, like you said, you've got this Senate hearing, you've got this small interview room thing going on with Oppenheimer about what happened, and almost like a little kangaroo court thing. And then you've got this story following the actual story of what happened, and I didn't feel lost once.
No,
never felt lost with it on where it was going on, even though it switches between the 3 situations constantly.
Yeah, I think that is because of the color grading, like with some of it being black and white, some of it being very starkly like the bits where it is Oppenheimer's perspective, like when it's doing the Manhattan Project stuff, there is a weird warmness to it that kind of makes it feel like his memory as opposed to anybody else's, which I quite like. Yeah, it's a fucking luscious film. Like, it's beautifully put together. It's also all the more impressive that there are no CGI scenes in it.
Yes.
There are a lot of special effects. Like, especially because there's this whole thing where I don't know if it's something Oppenheimer himself actually said, but someone basically said that Oppenheimer sees the stars. Oppenheimer sees physics. I guess like seeing the Matrix kind of thing. And there are visual representations of that. And as I was watching, I was trying to work out how did they do that. It's got to be all macro lenses and like dropping things in front of the camera and stuff. But it looked great.
Yeah, it's incredible. And when the moment happens, I thought it was done so effectively as well, and just the fact that that's not even CG.
No.
Like, how on earth? But I mean, I don't think it's going to be too much of a spoiler to say that they didn't show the actual bombings of Japan, and I think that's probably to its credit.
Yes.
I think there's a sign of respect. That's Oppenheimer's story had finished before that happened anyway. That wasn't Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer didn't have a part to play in that specific
he's built
event
the bomb.
other than
I think also it was important that they didn't show what happened to Japan because it wasn't about what happened to Japan. It was about the bomb.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at. But I think for me, it wasn't quite what I expected. Not to its detriment, but I was expecting, I think, probably a little bit more spectacle and science rather than the courtroom drama.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
A decent amount up to. I knew the poisoned apple thing. I know I'm getting expelled from Cambridge. I knew up until basically the bombs dropped. After that, I knew nothing. So it was a real Oppenheimer. It was an eye opener to learn about everything that follows. Just incredible, and it's so gripping as well for something that's like, what was it? 3 hours, 15 minutes.
3 hours 7, I think.
Of essentially interviews and courtroom drama. It was just completely gripping.
I mean, if they'd split that up into a TV series, it would have been one of the greatest HBO things ever made.
Mm.
Yeah, I was, because it's 3 hours, I needed to go to the loo at one point, and I was just sat there going, when can I go?
Yeah.
I just couldn't find a place because it just doesn't, it doesn't feel like there's any downtime or any moment that you can go, so you're not going to lose anything. And then I sat in the loo when it was like building up to when the bomb was going to be like tested. I was like, well, I can't go now. So I have to sit there like waiting for the... But yeah, I just, I found the performances in it excellent as well as obviously the way it was shot, edited, and the cinematography. All of that was excellent. But the performances in this are outstanding. Cillian Murphy is just brilliant throughout. And I thought the way they made him look throughout the whole thing was really well done. You could see the passage of time on the people.
Oh, the makeup department absolutely need to win an Oscar this year because the makeup is incredible. The
makeup is great. The way they act is if being younger and then being older is really convincing. But yeah, him, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, like all these like central characters that were there from the majority of the story, all of them just brilliant.
I think I mean, I saw it in IMAX. Just a hint: you don't need to see it in IMAX. The only visual bit that would be improved by IMAX is the bomb itself going off. However, if you can see it in IMAX, go because you need the sound. Oh my god, the sound in that film!
Yeah, I agree. The sound is way more interesting than what you're seeing in front of you.
It is. There are a couple of sequences, and I'm not going to spoil what they are. But I was talking to you about it yesterday, Stig, the speech moment. Where the sound becomes oppressive, and it kind of blends with the visuals, but you get this kind of booming sound coming at you, and listening in IMAX, I thought I could feel it in my chest. It was so powerful, and I think Ludwig Göransson did the music, and that's all outstanding. But the editing and the sound stuff, oh my god, it's so good.
That's very typical of Nolan, though, isn't it? To have the sound almost be overwhelming at some parts.
Yeah.
Like you said, I thought at some point, oh God, the cinema, I've got this on really loud. It's not, it's just the way it's been mixed.
Yeah, it was on purpose. You're almost put into his head where he was just sensory overload for him, and it was projecting that onto you as the audience as well.
Oh, it's stunning film. And actually, I will say, for a 3-hour film, it didn't feel like 3 hours. I was quite surprised when it ended. I thought the ending came quickly.
Yeah, I thought that, and also at the end.
Yeah.
Did not leave that feeling good.
No.
Yeah. But I mean, there wasn't any part of it that could have been cut out either, really. It's not like it was 3 hours for the sake of being self-indulgent. This was, there wasn't a moment that was wasted. It's all stuff that happened. So yeah, it needed to be the 3 hours.
Yeah. And again, it's kind of one of those, I think we talked about, Gadget, you brought up the Turing film with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where the government uses somebody for their expertise and chews them up, spits them out when they're done with them. And it leaves you feeling very kind of annoyed at how these
Yeah.
governments treat these people who essentially did wonderful things for them. And it's just one of those ones where you're just feeling quite angry about things. And
Yeah.
you do, and it's, I mean, especially, I mean, it's horrible what happened to Alan Turing, but I think this one also would feel it's. I mean, it's pointed out in the film. It is so incredibly petty why what happens to Oppenheimer happens to him. Like it's not that there is a particular problem with this character, or he is weird, or he is gay, or anything like that. It is just this tiny little perceived social slight between him and one of the characters, and he makes it his life's work to destroy him. It's hideous. It's absolutely hideous.
Yeah, but overall, just fantastic. Like I said to you, like it wouldn't be. It's not my favorite Nolan film, but I think the difference between a masterpiece is probably is his masterpiece. But the difference between that and what it's my favorite and more enjoyable to watch. Two different things for me, really.
I mean, my favorite is still The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight is a film you can rewatch. I will never watch Oppenheimer again. That I don't need to. This is like a modern Schindler's List to me. Oppenheimer is a beautiful, wonderful, deeply terrible, horrible film because of the content in it. Everyone plays an amazing part, and because they play an amazing part, you get the horror. And it's a slow burn, and it's so tense all the way through, and everyone is playing it so well. It's just like you don't come out of that film feeling good, but you come out of that film having seen one of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah, I think comparing to Schindler's List is probably right in terms of it's an important film that you need to see, but not one that you really ever need to see again, regardless of how good it is.
It's not a Sunday afternoon watch, is it?
God, no. But yeah, if this isn't the film that gets all the nominations at the Oscars, then there's something wrong, because it's for main performances, supporting performances, director, editing, cinematography, sound, makeup, like the list goes on. That if I think this could be what wins Nolan an Oscar.
Yeah, because he hasn't won an Oscar yet himself, has he? His films, some of his films have, but he hasn't.
No.
Oh, that's surprising. Do you think Cillian will get a Oscar?
I think he'll definitely get nominated.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get nominated. I think Robert Downey Jr. will, because one of the most impressive things for me in this with Robert Downey Jr. as well is he spent 10 years being Iron Man, and you don't get a hint of that in this film.
I was going to say it must have been such a breath of fresh air for him, but it's completely, I mean, he's unrecognizable, not just by his appearance, but like you said, his mannerisms, his acting style, everything.
Yeah.
He must have just used it so cathartically as a kind of like shedding of Iron Man and doing something so different.
There's a moment near the end where Strauss gets angry, and it kind of shocked me because I've not seen Robert Downey Jr. do genuine anger before. That felt like he, the person, Robert Downey Jr., was pissed off. Like, and it just proves how good an actor he actually is.
That was the moment I was just thinking. I did sit there. I thought, wow, like that's going to be what gets him noticed specifically from the film. He's very good throughout, but that moment that's the kind of one that everyone will show clips of like
because like throughout the rest of the film, because he's in this Senate hearing, and it's all about like him selling himself and trying not to get too much into what happened with Oppenheimer. He's kind of Tony Starkish. He's very charming. He's very affable. You know, he's playing like what I would say is in Robert Downey Jr.'s wheelhouse of a character. And then there's that moment where he explodes. I'm like, oh no, this is a new level. This is an unreal performance. I think Emily Blunt definitely needs to be nominated.
There's one particular moment with her which is incredible. No spoilers, but I was just kind of sat there with like a big grin on my face, and during that moment, I thought she was just brilliant.
Yeah, I think like there aren't really awards for like kind of like smaller roles in these things, because it's always just like actor and supporting actor and stuff like that. Because I would have thought Tom Conti should get some kind of recognition for playing Einstein. I thought he was really good as Einstein.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Judi Dench got an Oscar for being on screen for about 6 minutes.
Oh, true, yeah.
Before, so you know, it can happen.
Florence Pugh is great as Oppenheimer's mistress, and David Dalmatian is great as William Borden. And finally, he's got a role where he doesn't have to be a real fucking creep. I've played an actual real person.
I saw something as
Matt Damon. Sorry, Matt Damon needs nominating. Like,
I'm all for Josh Hartnett doing his Matthew McConaughey, like coming back and doing serious roles and being really good in them. And because he's really good in this, and he was really good in that Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
And now he's in his 40s.
I was quite surprised to see
serious
him.
roles.
I didn't even know he was still working.
I think it's obviously a comeback, isn't it? Like, he hasn't been doing anything, I think, for the best part of 20 years.
So,
yeah, because he kind of lost that. Well, he's a bit too old to be putting in the heartthrob, late teen, early 20s role now. And now people start to use him like for serious roles, and he's been very good in the last two things I've seen. So
yeah, just looking at his IMDb, like his recent stuff, he's done a lot of like straight to DVD action films, like things with titles like Inherit the Viper or Target Number One. Yeah, so he's not really had a career for years, has he?
No, but if you're gonna,
he was in 27 episodes of Penny Dreadful. That was the last thing he did. I would say proper thing he did. But no, he's great in this. I didn't even realize he could act properly. I just thought he was supposed to be just like a kind of like likable heartthrob.
Full of like
it was the same with
actors in this as well, isn't he?
Matthew Mahogany.
Mahogany,
you know.
Yeah. You know, that guy. Mahogany.
Yeah, completely the same, typecast. And Hugh Grant as well. Once they get over the kind of foppish, love interest, these people do end up being quite fine actors.